Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to take a look at how the USE minis unfolded yesterday, which was Monday the 24th of August. Particularly as it was quite a hectic day with the markets being limit down and really volatile movements with all this news coming out from China. So I want to have a look at how they unfolded with MTPredictor. But before I start, I'd like to issue the same warning that I gave to our MTPredictor customers in our training webinar yesterday, and that's basically to avoid trading on days like yesterday. If you are a small trader with a relatively small amount of capital, the whipsaws and fast moves on a wide range moving day like this can basically cut you to shreds, and it's just not worth it. Remember, being a successful trader is all about risk control. So the best thing to do on a day like yesterday is just sit aside and just watch the market and just have fun with it, watch with it moving. Don't risk any capital. So having said that, let's have a look at what MTPredictor did. There was a TS2 sell here early in the day on the ES. In fact, that came in on all the markets, and that would have been stopped out for a -1 hour loss unless you brought your stop to break even pretty quickly. So let's call that -1 hour loss. Actually, what I should have said first is typically on days like this, after you've had a really big move down over the weekend on bad news, very often you'll then get a rally into about lunchtime, midday-ish, before the news then takes over again and the markets then roll over and start going down. Basically, the rally is just with people profit taking after the big short move. So that's basically what happened yesterday. So let's have a look and see whether we managed to catch any of the sells a bit later in the day. So right, we had a -1 hour loss on the ES there, the same trade set up on the NQ, and the same trade set up on the YM. Wouldn't suggest trying to buy a market like this later in the day. That would have been very, very risky, and our STF would have been red anyway, so trend was down. So let's have a look and see whether any of the markets would have caught the rollover higher in the day or later in the day. Let's go out to the higher time frame, the 5-minute, and on the YM there was nothing there. On the ES, let's go out to the 5-minute, and on the ES there was nothing there. However, on the NQ, if we now go out to the 5-minute chart, we can see what happened on the NQ. You actually had two sell setups. So if you'd taken these, again, these would have both been -1 hour losses, -1 hour, and then on this next one, -1 hour. So you'd have actually been -3 hour down, which would have been very, very difficult. So let's see what happened after that. After that, there was another sell setup here, which actually caught the high of the day. Let's place the analysis on here, and you can see the potential profit was absolutely massive. The market didn't reach this before the close. If you'd held into the close, it would have been an absolutely massive 13-hour profit, far, far bigger than the 3 -1 hour losses earlier. However, my advice on that is if you had such a big potential profit target, remember that there's usually a minor support in and around the DP off the minor wave B, which would have been here. So if you had projected this out, remember these DPs are on the chart in advance, then that would have been a logical place to perhaps bring your stop closer or start to look to take profit. If you'd taken profit there, that would have been 9.7 hour profit, or can I call it 10 hour profit for easy maths? So that shows you the beauty of position sizing. So even though you would have had a -1 hour loss on the 3-minute chart earlier, at this point here where the A is on the 5-minute chart, you'll then had two more losing trades going up there as well. The last sell here, catching the high of the day, would have been +9.7. So -3 plus 9.7 would have been a profitable day of +7 hour almost for the day, which would have been very, very nice. One thing I will say on this, and why the last trade set up here was actually better, was if I put the high-low close on, can you see how the high of the day yesterday on the NQ was actually at the previous day's low, which was the previous Friday, and the previous day's close, pretty much at the same price there. If I zoom out a bit, you can see that was the previous day, which was the 21st of August, and can you see how the NQ rallied up to that particular level before rolling over. So if anything, this last trade setup here, this TS3 sell, was actually a stronger trade setup because it came in at an obvious resistance area as well. So that was how the NQ did So 3 losing trades at -1R each, then a plus 9.6, 9.7 or 9.9 depending on how you came out. Let's call it 10R profit approximately on that last trade setup. So MTPredictor did very well, even though, as I said at the beginning of the video, days like yesterday are not days where you really want to put any money in the market. They're days when you should just stand aside and let other people get chopped around. Quick look at the Russell Index. That did exactly the same with a TS3 sell that came in as on the high of the day there as well. You can see there was a -1R loss earlier, but there's the TS3 sell. If I place the analysis on, again, that would have been a massive potential target. Same tactic on as the NQ, place the DP off the prior wave B, which came in around here. So that would be, again, a nice profit around that level at this time, plus 8.6R. But anyway, a very good day for MTPredictor, with us catching the high of the day very nicely there as the markets rolled over later in the afternoon for a nice approximately 10R profit, even though there were 3 losing trades earlier. Correct position sizing kept the initial risk small under control. If I zoom out, in fact, if I take the HLC off, if I zoom out, you can see that one contract short there would have had a $270 US dollar risk. If you're a very experienced trader, one thing that was very interesting on this is, if I go out to the 15-minute chart, you can see that we actually had a TS2 sell there, which means that a higher time frame resistance came in, and on the 5-minute chart we've already seen that that was a TS3 sell there at 12:30. But what I was interested in is, I'm just going to place that DP on there. What I was interested in is this initial decline down, this initial rally up. Now that's a wave 2 in Elliott wave terms, because if I place the Elliott wave pattern on here, you can see it's a 1, 2, 3. If you go down to a very short term chart, that wave 2, which was there, was actually a TS1 sell. So if you're really aggressive, this would be treated as a holy grail trade setup, because it was a trade off a wave 2. Rather than coming out at the minimum wave C, you could go down to the typical wave 3 WPT there, or if you're very aggressive, you could then come all the way down here to the 5-minute DP support for a nice 10R profit as well. So there was another opportunity to get short there on the wave 2, which is our holy grail trade setup, but that was very, very aggressive. The best trade, I think, was on the 5-minute chart, where you just simply came in off that TS3 sell off the high of the day as your 4th trade of the day, to then come out with a nice almost 10R profit at that DP from the wave B, just about there. But again, I have to end this video with the same advice that I started it with, in that days like yesterday, when you have limit down moves and you have really volatile, quick swings like yesterday, it's not a place for most smaller traders. It really is a day when you just sit aside, just watch the market unfold, and let other people take the risks in there, because trying to control your risk on a day like yesterday was very, very hard indeed. But I just thought it was interesting that even though the advice is not to trade on a day like that, MTPredictor actually did very well on its trade setups, catching the high of the day there on the NQ.